Okay, we're gonna start at the very beginning. We're gonna teach those kids how to read. Part 1. The very first thing you have to teach or make sure is solidly established is the correct sounds of the letters. You may think you know the correct sounds of the letters, but you may be surprised. So I'm going to go through each sound really slowly so that you are sure what that sound is when you teach it to your child. Okay, here we go. The most common sound for A is A. B is a very short, quick sound, B. The most common sound for C is only air, no voice, K. D is also very short and quick, D. The most common sound for E is its short sound, E. The most common sound for F is only air, no voice, F. More coming in part 2. This is part 2 of the correct sounds of the alphabet. We've already done A through F. So starting with the letter G. The most common sound for G is its hard sound, G. The sound for H is only air, no voice, H. The most common sound for I is its short sound, I. J is a very short, quick sound, J. K is only air, no voice, K. And hang on to the sound of that L, L. If you don't hang on to it, you'll add an on the end, L. Don't do that. Same with the M and N sound. Hang on to them, N. Don't let that sneak in. It's not ma or na. The most common sound for O is its short sound, ah. P is a quiet sound, no voice, P. Hopefully I can fit the rest in part 3. This is part 3 of the correct sounds of the alphabet. We've already done letters A through P, so we're going to start with Q. The sound for Q is actually a combination of 2 sounds, but they're both quiet, no voice, only air, Qu. Hang on to the sound of the R, The sound for S is quiet, only air, S. Same with the T, T. Make sure it's not ta. There's no A. A is saved for the next letter, U. V is a long sound, V. W, very short and quick, W. X is also a combination of 2 sounds, both quiet, only air, no voice, X. I'm going to give you a fun fact about Y. Y can be a consonant or a vowel. If it's the first letter of the word, it's a consonant. If it's anywhere else in the word, it's a vowel. Who knew, right? The consonant sound for Y is ya. Z is a long sound, Z. I hope that helps, and I hope you follow me for more reading tips. How to teach your child to read, part 4. This should actually probably be part 0. You actually have to do this before you teach them how to read. If they've already started, it's not too late. If they are struggling, this is probably why. It's called phonemic awareness. What now? It's not phonics, it's actually prior to print. It's being able to hear, identify, and manipulate the tiniest units of sound, the phonemes, within a word or a syllable. If this isn't established and strengthened and solid, then reading is going to be a struggle, and especially spelling. Okay, so here's a quick tip on how to establish it. Without any print, without looking at any letters, say a word and have them identify and break off just the first sound or just the last sound. More coming in part 5. Join me over there. This is important stuff. How to teach your child to read, part 5. If you haven't watched part 4 yet, go watch that. It's pretty important. We're talking about phonemic awareness, how to establish it and develop it. Okay, so once you have said a word and have asked them to break off either just the first sound or just the last sound, then have them repeat that word back to you without that missing sound. For instance, if you gave them the word table and asked them to break off just the first sound and then repeat the word back without that sound, they would say able, hopefully. Then to continue with the practice, give them a replacement sound. For instance, have them try to plug in a S in that first spot, and they should be able to come up with sable. Follow me if you want more how to teach reading tips. There's a lot more to come. How to teach reading, part 6. Let's talk about those hard, awful, monster sight words. Sight words are those words that disobey the rules. They do their own thing and it makes no sense. Please, please, please don't ever allow your child to try to sound out or decode a sight word. That will encourage guessing, and we are trying to break the habit of guessing, and they'll probably get it wrong. There are methods for teaching sight words. The most important thing to remember is that sight words need to be taught as a whole unit, not as some of its parts. It's just one thing. We have lots of ways, games, and activities to teach these sight words. There's a link in my bio if you're interested, or stay tuned for part 7, and I'll share some of those with you. And go ahead and follow if you're interested in learning how to teach reading, especially to struggling readers. How to Teach Reading Part 7. We've been talking about sight words. Sight words are those words that break typical phonetic patterns, and you just have to learn them as a unit, and you have to learn them by memorizing. But we have ways to do that. Memorizing isn't easy, especially for our struggling readers, so we have ways, games, and activities to make it easier. So if you remember from Part 6, sight words should never be decoded. Don't even let your child begin to sound out a sight word. Please don't do that. So we teach one sight word at a time, building a slow sight word snowball, spending as much time as we need with each new sight word. We also teach a student to circle a sight word when they come to it. That helps them to recognize it as a unit and as one thing, and not as some of its sounds. And we use lots of games and activities with repeated positive exposure. Follow for more reading tips. The actual nitty-gritty, how do you do it, teaching your child to read. I'm going to talk fast because we only have a minute. I'm assuming you've already taught them the correct sounds of the alphabet, established phonemic awareness, taught them about sight words. Now we're going to move on to the actual blending. Using controlled text. If you don't know what that is, check out the link in my bio, but it's important that they have only words that they are going to have the tools to know how to read. You're going to give them a pencil and they will dot each sound in the word, and then they will go and connect the dots very slowly to blend them without a pause. However, in order to know what those vowels are going to say, you're going to do something called the vowel placement strategy. We have a shortcut for this. It's called Tap 2, and I'll teach you more about this in Part 9. How to teach your child to read, Part 9. How to figure out those pesky vowels. You ready to get your mind blown? This is really good stuff. Okay, there's a lot of different parts in the vowel placement strategy, but I'm going to teach you about the shortcut Tap 2. Before your child attempts to read a word, have them take a pencil and dot each sound. When they come to the first vowel, have them tap 2, the next 2 letters. If either one of them is another vowel, then the vowel that they are on will likely say its name or its long sound. If not, it'll probably say its short sound. Then they'll go to the next vowel and tap the next 2 letters to find out the sound of that vowel. Then when they go to connect the dots, they will know what each sound says, especially those vowels, and they will read that word with confidence. There are a few exceptions, and we have rules for those too, so keep watching. But this, plus what I'm going to teach you over in Part 10, will change everything for your struggling reader. How to Teach Reading Part 10. What do you do when you're reading with your child and they stumble or make a mistake on a word? Okay, here's what you do. Listen up. This is super important and super effective. You're not going to tell them the word that they missed. You're going to tell them the error. For instance, that was a great try. Here's what happened. There was an O that slipped in right after the S. Pay attention to that spot. There's no L there. Try again. Or here's another example. There's an N in that word. When you read it this time, pay really close attention to where that N is and make sure you grab that sound. When you give them a goal, then they learn how to read, not rely on guessing. Then they can get the word on their own, and they feel so proud, and you feel so proud, and everybody's so proud. Giving your child a goal when they make a mistake changes everything.